Hey, what's up, you guys? So listen, I need you to sit down for this one because the lawsuit that Cardi just dropped on Tasha K's husband, baby, this is not a lawsuit. This is a hostage situation with a stamp from a federal judge. And I'm not even being dramatic. I have the actual filing in front of me. I've been reading it for the last 2 hours, and I'm telling you right now, by the time we get to the part about the brother and Molly, the part about the judge literally warning these two to their face not to do the exact thing they then went and did, and the part where Tasha could legally become a salaried employee of Cardi B for the rest of her natural life, you are going to need to lie down. So put the phone on the charger, close the bathroom door so your kids don't hear me, and let's get into it. Now, before everybody hops in the comments like, Tisa, you late, you late, you late. Yes, I know the verdict was years ago. Yes, I know Tasha K supposedly went broke. Yes, I know she ran to Africa and did the whole, where's the money routine on live. I know all of that. That's not what this is. This filing is brand new. This filing is federal. And this filing is the move Cardi has been quietly building towards since she walked out of that courtroom the first time and said, basically, with her eyes, I bet. Because everybody thought Cardi forgot. Everybody thought she let it go. Tasha was out here doing victory laps in 3 different countries. The husband was on live grinning. They thought the storm passed. They thought wrong. Because what Cardi did, and you have to respect the strategy whether you like Cardi or not, is she went quiet, went on tour, got her bag, kissed her babies, came back, and then hit them with a filing that doesn't just want the money. It wants the house. It wants the studio. It wants the new studio. It wants the future studio. It wants the brother that doesn't exist. It wants the salary, the royalties, the bag of chips out the pantry. It wants everything. Listen, let me set the table because we gotta keep this clean. Original verdict, Tasha personally owes Cardi about $3.8 million. Her old company, KBI Studios, owes another roughly $3 million on top. Rounded together, you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $6.5 to $7 million. That's the number. Hold that number in your head the whole video. 7 million. Every move you're about to hear about, every shell company, every transfer, every Africa trip, every my brother owns half of it excuse, every single move was about not paying that 7 million. And every one of those moves, baby, is now Exhibit A, B, C, all the way down to Exhibit Z in Cardi's new filing. That's what's so wild about this. They built the cage themselves. They handed Cardi the keys, the lock, and the floor plan, and then walked in and asked her to please close the door behind them. That is what this filing reads like. And I'm not exaggerating. The filing literally walks through their own moves, in order, with dates, and uses each move as the next nail in the coffin. It's almost embarrassing to read. I felt bad for like 10 seconds, and then I remembered who we were talking about, and the feeling passed. Okay, so here's the timeline, because the timeline is what's going to put your jaw on the floor. The jury hands down the original verdict. Tasha and KBI are on the hook for that big number. The judge, and this is important, the actual judge during the original trial, looks Tasha K and her husband dead in the face and tells them, do not, I repeat, do not start moving assets around trying to dodge this judgment. He warned them, out loud, on the record, with the court reporter typing it up in real time. The judge was basically like, listen, do not play with this court. Don't start transferring properties. Don't start ghost companying me. Don't start gifting houses to your mama. None of that. I'm watching. That warning is in the transcript. That warning is now a weapon, because what happens next? 1 month. Not 1 year. Not even 6 months. 1 month after that warning, Tasha K transfers her interest in a Georgia property to her husband. For nothing. For air. For vibes. For $0.00. Baby, you cannot make this up. Now, real quick, because I know somebody's about to type, Tisa, married people transfer property all the time. Yes, sweetie, they do. In normal life. When the courthouse hasn't just put a multi-million-dollar judgment on your head, and the judge hasn't just personally told you not to do that very thing. Context is everything in court. The act itself isn't always illegal. The act, plus the timing, plus the warning, plus the lack of payment, plus the $7 million shadow hanging over your head. That combination is what creates what lawyers call a badge of fraud. And in this filing, Cardi's legal team isn't just pointing to one badge. They are pinning these two with a whole sash. Like a Miss America sash, but every ribbon on it says fraud in big block letters. Let me keep going because it gets worse. So much worse. May 31st, 2023. Mark that date. Husband forms a brand new company. Brand new. Fresh out the oven. Smells like a printer that just spit it out. The new company is called Yellen Entertainment. And what happens to KBI Studios, the old company that owes Cardi all that money? Funny you should ask. KBI gets quietly dissolved. Like a Alka-Seltzer in a glass of water. Gone. Fizzed out. Empty. Nothing in the bank account. Nothing on the books. Nothing for Cardi to collect from. But all of KBI's actual business, the operations, the revenue streams, the equipment, the contracts, Tasha's whole talent career underneath it, every dollar that was flowing through KBI, allegedly just gets picked up and moved over to Yellen Entertainment. The new company. The clean company. The one Cardi's name isn't anywhere near. And how much did Yellen pay for all of that? You already know. Nothing. Zero. Not a dollar. Not a sandwich. Not a thank you card. Just transferred over like it was a Netflix password. Now let me explain why this is the legal version of getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar, on camera, with the crumbs still on your face. For a transfer of a business to be respected by a court, you need 3 things. You need an offer, you need an acceptance, and you need consideration. Consideration is just a lawyer word for something of value. Both sides have to give something. You can't just hand over a whole media company that's making real money and call it a Tuesday. That's not a sale. That's not a transfer. That's a smokescreen. And the law has a very specific name for that smokescreen. It's called a fraudulent conveyance. And once a judge labels something a fraudulent conveyance, the whole thing collapses. The new company doesn't get to keep the goodies. The old company doesn't get to stay dead. The judge can reach right back through that fake wall and grab the assets like nothing ever happened. That's what Cardi is asking for. Listen, and here's where the husband, bless his heart, becomes Cardi's star witness against his own wife. Because in the depositions that already happened, this man sat under oath, raised his hand, swore on the Bible, swore on his career, swore on his mama, and then said the quiet part out loud. He admitted, on the record, that the reason he moved everything around was specifically to help Tasha avoid paying. He literally told the court that he restructured how she got paid so that Cardi couldn't garnish her wages. He admitted to rerouting her paychecks through the new company's accounts. He admitted he took her off the payroll bank account she used to be on so that Cardi couldn't follow the money trail. He admitted, in his own words, that the goal was to frustrate the collection. Frustrate. That's the word he used. Sir, you are under oath in federal court describing on tape, in your own voice, with your own breath, the exact thing a fraudulent transfer claim needs to prove. Cardi's lawyers didn't have to dig for the smoking gun. The husband walked into the courtroom carrying it, handed it to the bailiff, and said, "Hold this for me real quick." Now, the cherry on top of this whole Sunday, the part that has me cracking up at 3 in the morning, is when the lawyer asked him on the stand if he understood the judge's original warning not to move assets. And this man, instead of playing dumb, instead of saying, "I didn't realize, Your Honor, I'm so sorry," looks the lawyer in the eye and says, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's basically this: "Yes, I am smart enough to have understood that warning." Baby, why would you say that? Why? Because now you've closed the only legal door you had left. You can't say you didn't know. You can't say you were confused. You can't say nobody explained it. You stood in front of a federal court and said, on the record, "I am smart enough." So when Cardi's lawyer turns around and says, "Your Honor," he knew exactly what he was doing. The husband's own words are the receipt. You don't even need a second witness. He testified for the other side. For free. With a smile. Tasha, if you're listening, get a new husband. I'm so sorry. Or at least one that knows when to plead the Fifth. Because the Fifth Amendment, sir, exists for a reason, and it is exactly for moments like this. Nobody was forcing you to say smart enough. You could have just sat there. You could have said, "I don't recall." You could have given the answer everybody on Law and Order gives. Instead, you went full TED Talk, and now your wife is about to be a salaried employee of Cardi B. Bravo. Standing ovation. Okay, so now we gotta talk about the famous brother in Molly, because this is the part of the filing that had me hollering. So the story they tried to sell the court is that this brand new Yellen Entertainment isn't really owned by Tasha's husband. Oh no, it's actually 50% owned by his brother, who happens to live in Mali, in Africa, far, far away, conveniently unsubpoenable, conveniently undeposable, conveniently unfindable, conveniently uneverything. Just vibes and a name on a piece of paper. Now I will say, in fairness, it is entirely possible to own a business with a sibling overseas. I'm not saying brothers in Mali don't exist. They do. They are real people. They have lives and families and businesses. That is not the issue. The issue is the husband's own tax returns. Because while he is in court saying his brother owns half the company, the IRS paperwork he signed and submitted to the federal government says, in black and white, that he, the husband, is 100% owner. Sir, you cannot tell one branch of the federal government one thing and another branch of the federal government a different thing. Those two pieces of paper are sitting in the same building. They talk to each other. They have coffee. They share a printer. So now Cardi's legal team is basically saying to the judge, look, either he lied to the IRS, in which case, hello tax fraud, please involve the criminal division, or he lied to this court, in which case, hello perjury, please involve the bailiff. Pick a lane, sir. There is no version of this story where he comes out clean. And that's before we even get into the fact that the brother allegedly knows nothing about the business, doesn't run it, doesn't manage it, doesn't sign on accounts, doesn't get reports, doesn't show up for meetings. So tell me how a man who knows nothing about the day-to-day, who lives on another continent, who has produced zero evidence of ownership, somehow magically owns 50% of a multi-million-dollar media business that was conjured into existence the exact moment his sister-in-law lost a major lawsuit. Make it make sense. The filing literally asks that question. The filing is being petty in legalese, and I am here for every comma. Let me also paint the picture of what happens if this brother actually does have to give a deposition, because the visual is incredible. Cardi's lawyers can request a deposition by video. They can request he travel. They can request documents proving his ownership stake. If he doesn't appear, the judge can draw what's called an adverse inference, which is just a fancy way of saying the court gets to assume the worst. The court gets to assume the brother is fake, the ownership is fake, the whole structure is fake, and rule accordingly. If he does appear, he has to produce bank records, transfer documents, signed operating agreements, capital contributions, anything that proves he actually put money in or did work or earned his stake. And from what's in the filing, none of those documents exist. Because how could they? The whole point of the structure was that nothing real ever happened. The brother was a name on a piece of paper to make the percentages look better. Once you put that name in a deposition chair under a federal judge's watch, the whole costume falls off in slow motion. So either the brother becomes a no-show, in which case the case collapses on Tasha's side, or he shows up and gets dismantled within an hour. There is no third door. I also want to mention one more detail from the filing that I think people are sleeping on, because it shows just how sloppy this whole structure was. Despite Yellen Entertainment supposedly being a real, functioning company, with revenue, with operations, with employees, with Tasha as the talent, there were apparently no written management agreements. None. No contracts. No paperwork explaining who got what share of the revenue. No employment agreements. No talent agreements. The husband, when asked under oath, basically said, I take my fees out, and whatever's left, my wife gets. That was the whole arrangement. Sir, you are describing, in formal federal testimony, the exact structure of a one pocket to another pocket scheme. Real businesses have agreements. Real businesses have invoices. Real businesses have W-9s and 1099s and audited statements. What you just described is a kid running a lemonade stand with his sister. And that's the level of paperwork holding up a company that's allegedly making millions. The judge is going to read that and laugh out loud in chambers. The judge is going to call the law clerks in just to read that part of the transcript at lunch. There is no recovering from that level of informality once a fraudulent conveyance claim is on the table. Now we got to talk about the absolute haymaker in this whole filing. The part that is making lawyers I know text me in all caps. The part that even Tasha probably hadn't fully processed when she went on live the other night smiling like nothing was wrong. The constructive trust. You guys, do you know what a constructive trust is? Most people don't. And I didn't really either until I started reading these legal newsletters like they were the morning paper. A constructive trust is when a court says, you don't get to own your own stuff anymore. You can hold it, you can sit on it, you can technically touch it, but legally it belongs to somebody else, and every dollar of value that comes out of it goes straight to that other person until a debt is paid in full. That's it. That's the whole thing. It is, in plain English, the court turning you into a vending machine and somebody else holding the only key. If the judge grants the constructive trust the way Cardi is asking, here is what your favorite messy gossip channel actually translates into. Tasha K does not get to control her own bank accounts. Her husband doesn't get to control his. They don't get to control the new studio. They don't get to control the old studio's leftovers. They don't get to control the houses. They don't get to control the cars. They don't get to control the brand deals. They don't get to control the YouTube revenue. They don't get to control the merch. They don't get to control the future projects. Every revenue stream, past, present, and future, flows automatically into a trust whose only purpose, whose sole legal beneficiary, is Cardi B. Until that $7 million is paid. With interest. With fees. With every legal cost Cardi has racked up running these two down for years. Tasha K would not just be paying Cardi. Tasha K would functionally be employed by Cardi. She would wake up, go to work, record a video, post a video, earn ad revenue, and that ad revenue would land in a Cardi account. She gets a small living expense allowance. The rest? Hi, boss. Let that sit. Let that marinate. The woman who built her whole brand on, "I'm coming for the Barty gang," would be writing checks to the head Barty every 2 weeks, with taxes withheld, probably with a direct deposit slip. I'm not even joking. That's what a constructive trust actually does. And remember, this isn't a punishment for past debts only. This is past, present, and future. Cardi's filing specifically asks the court to lock the trust on future earnings too. So even if Tasha pivots, even if she launches a podcast, even if she sells beauty products, even if she does a reality show, even if she writes a book called How to Lose $7 Million Without Even Trying, every dollar lands in the same account. The Cardi account. Forever. Or until the bill clears, which at this rate is also forever. And constructive trusts are not some made-up thing Cardi's lawyers invented for this case. They have a long history in entertainment law. Courts have used them before to claw back royalties from artists who tried to hide income behind family members. Courts have used them to recover money from producers who funneled cash through LLCs registered in their kids' names. The doctrine is old, it is well established, and judges are very comfortable with it when the evidence supports it. So when Cardi's filing asks for a constructive trust, it's not a wild swing. It's a textbook move. The kind of move that, on paper, looks reasonable, looks measured, looks like exactly the kind of remedy a court is supposed to grant when someone has spent years actively defying a judgment. And that is the difference between a filing the judge laughs at and a filing the judge takes seriously. This one is in the second category. This one is going to get a hearing, on the record, with full attention, with a judge who has already seen the husband's deposition and is probably looking forward to ruling. And on top of that, the permanent injunction. Because Cardi's lawyers are not playing. They're not just asking for the trust. They're asking the court to put a permanent injunction on Tasha and her husband that prevents them from transferring, hiding, gifting, moving, or even sneezing on any future assets. So if you and your husband decide tomorrow, "Hey, let's go buy a chain of laundromats in Atlanta in our cousin's name," nope. The injunction catches it. "Let's open a numbered account in Switzerland." Nope. Caught. "Let's send some money to my fake brother in Mali to buy property in Cabo." Nope, nope, and nope. Every move, every transfer, every dollar that touches their hands now has to pass through a court that has already officially labeled them, on the record, as people who tried to dodge a judgment. That label sticks. Banks read it. Real estate agents read it. Other countries read it. Future business partners read it. It's like wearing a sign that says, "Do not loan me money or the federal government will show up at your office." Now here is where I have to bring up the part that I personally think nobody is talking about loud enough. The restraining order. Yes, the same restraining order Cardi just won that everybody was sort of laughing about because they thought it was just a regular "stop saying my name" order. It is not. Read it again. I'll wait. The order doesn't just say Tasha can't talk about Cardi. The order says Tasha can't talk about Cardi. Anybody Cardi is in a romantic relationship with, anybody Cardi is in a business relationship with, or any business associate of hers. Now ask yourself who decides who Cardi's business associates are. Cardi does. Or rather, Cardi's posts do. Cardi's tags do. Cardi's joint announcements do. Which means anybody Cardi suddenly decides to do business with instantly becomes protected territory. Cardi could partner with a candle company on Tuesday, and by Wednesday afternoon Tasha can't say the candle company's name without violating a court order. You see what just happened? Cardi quietly turned the restraining order into a customizable shield. She controls the perimeter. She can expand it on command. Want to protect Stefan? Tag him in a project. Boom. Protected. Want to protect Offset? No. On second thought, leave Offset out there. He's on his own. Want to protect a producer Tasha was about to do a story on. Drop a quote post. Done. Tasha now cannot legally say their name out loud. And if she slips up, even once, even with a wink, even with a meme, that's a violation. And restraining order violations don't just come with fines. After enough of them, they come with jail time. So while everybody was distracted with haha she can't say Cardi name no more, what Cardi actually built was a moving fence around her entire orbit. A fence that Tasha cannot see, can't predict, and walks into every time she opens her mouth. That, my friends, is Grandmaster level chess on a checkers channel. What makes the restraining order even more dangerous is the financial side. Each violation, depending on how the judge structures it, can come with what's called a contempt fine. Contempt fines are not a fixed number. The judge can set them at whatever they think is appropriate for the situation. We are not talking about $100. We are talking about thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, per violation, depending on the conduct. So imagine for a second that Tasha goes on live and accidentally says the wrong name. That's one violation. She does a podcast and says it again. That's 2. Her producer slips up on her show. That's 3. Now multiply by a fine that could be 5, 10, $15,000 apiece. Now imagine that money also gets pulled directly out of revenue that, by the way, is now sitting in the constructive trust that benefits Cardi. So the violation money goes from the trust to Cardi, then the regular revenue from the trust also goes to Cardi, and the cycle just keeps feeding itself. It's a financial perpetual motion machine, and the engine is Tasha's mouth. The only way to slow it down is to actually be quiet. And being quiet, as we all know, is not exactly Tasha's signature move. Okay, I have to address the Molly question because I know somebody's going to ask. Tisa, what if the money is overseas? How can a federal court even reach into Molly to collect anything? Great question, honestly. And this is exactly why Cardi went federal instead of staying in state court. State courts can do a lot. They can garnish wages, they can put liens on property, they can seize American accounts. But state courts are basically allergic to international jurisdiction. They can't really chase money sitting in a bank account in Africa. They just don't have the legal arms for that. Federal courts, on the other hand, have international treaties on their side. Federal courts can ask other countries to recognize their judgments under reciprocity agreements. Federal courts can lean on the Department of Justice. Federal courts can coordinate with foreign banks under anti-money laundering frameworks. They can get assets frozen in cooperative jurisdictions while the case unfolds. Will it be easy? Absolutely not. Mali is not the most cooperative jurisdiction in the world for civil enforcement. But not easy is very different from impossible. And the moment Cardi's team brought this to federal court, they signaled they're playing the long game. They're not trying to collect by next month. They're trying to make sure that for the rest of Tasha's life, every wire transfer, every property deed, every offshore deposit has to go through a federal funnel. And while we're on the subject of the long game, let's talk about the IRS, because this is the silent killer in this whole thing. Because remember what I told you. The husband's tax returns reportedly show him as 100% owner of Yellen Entertainment. Now, if you transfer a whole media business between spouses or relatives without paying for it, the IRS has a couple of categories that apply. One is a gift, in which case there's a lifetime exemption you have to declare and gift taxes that potentially apply once you cross the threshold. 2 is a sale, which requires reported income on the other side. 3 is a sham transaction, which is the IRS's polite way of saying tax fraud. If Cardi's lawyers can convince the federal court that this whole company shuffle was a sham, suddenly the IRS gets a phone call. And once the IRS gets a phone call, it's a whole different game. The IRS doesn't care about gossip channels. The IRS doesn't care about live. The IRS doesn't care about your YouTube comments. The IRS just shows up with a calculator and a calendar and starts adding penalties. Cardi's legal team probably won't even have to ask. They drop the right filing in the right inbox, and the IRS does the rest of the work for free. And by the way, the IRS doesn't have a statute of limitations the same way regular civil cases do when fraud is involved. When the IRS thinks fraud is on the table, the clock basically resets. They can go back further than you think. They can layer interest. They can layer civil penalties. They can refer it for criminal review. Most people don't survive an IRS criminal referral with their reputation intact, never mind their bank account. So if even a sliver of this filing ends up triggering an IRS review, the consequences would extend way beyond what's happening in this courtroom and into a place that, frankly, nobody comes back from clean. That is the side door Cardi's filing quietly leaves open, and nobody seems to be looking at it. I want to circle back to something quick because I keep getting questions about it. People keep asking me, why did Cardi wait so long if she had all this in her back pocket? Real answer: strategy. Pure, cold, basketball coach with a clipboard strategy. If Cardi had filed all of this 2 years ago, she would have spent millions chasing a company that was actively still operating, a couple that was actively still pretending to be solvent, and assets that were actively still being scattered across the planet. By waiting, by going quiet, by letting Tasha and the husband relax, by letting them think the storm passed, Cardi let them complete their entire scheme out in the open. Every transfer they did got date stamped. Every interview they gave got transcribed. Every live they ran where they bragged about being broke got screen recorded. Every tax return got filed. They built a complete paper trail of their own guilt, in public, voluntarily, while waving at the camera. And Cardi's lawyers just sat there with a folder, collecting it all, like a Pokemon trainer catching every Pokemon in the Pokédex of fraudulent conveyance. And when the folder was thick enough to break a desk, they walked it over to federal court. Now, real talk for a second, because I do have to be a fair commentator. Is there a world where Tasha and her husband fight this and win some of the fights? Sure, there's always a world. They could argue, for example, that the original judgment didn't extend to KBI's successor company. They could argue the brother in Mali actually does exist and has real involvement. They could try to produce documents. They could try to delay. They could try to file motions to quash. Defense lawyers earn their money for a reason. But here's the problem with all of those strategies. Each one is fighting against the husband's own sworn testimony. You can't outrun a depot where you, with your own breath, said, "I did this to frustrate collection." You can't outlawyer, "I'm smart enough to understand the judge's warning, but I did it anyway." Those quotes are baked into the official record. They are not going anywhere. They are like a tattoo on the husband's neck that says fraudulent intent, in cursive. Every lawyer who picks up this file is going to see those quotes and have to figure out how to work around them. And there is no working around them. There is only damage control. So what does damage control look like? Honestly, it probably looks like a settlement. Quietly, behind the scenes. Don't be surprised in a few months if you start seeing leaks that Tasha and Cardi reached a private resolution. Because if I'm Tasha's lawyer right now, I'm not trying to take this to a full trial. I'm not trying to let a federal judge slap a constructive trust on every dollar my client will ever earn until she's 70 years old. I'm trying to negotiate. I'm trying to say, look, we'll give you the new studio, we'll give you part of the house, we'll give you a payment plan, just please don't take everything. Whether Cardi accepts that, who knows? Cardi has been very clear that she wants her money. All of it. With interest. With sprinkles. With a side of fries. So if the offer is too small, expect the case to keep grinding forward. And expect each hearing to be more brutal than the last. Because every hearing puts more of the husband's testimony into the spotlight, and that spotlight is a sun lamp. There is also a quieter possibility nobody is really talking about, which is that Cardi doesn't even want a settlement. Settlements are private. Settlements are sealed. Settlements rob the public of the show. And Cardi, for better or worse, is a performer. She knows the value of a public spectacle. She knows what it means for the entire commentary industry to watch her drag this case across the finish line in plain sight. There is a real chance she turns down every settlement offer, no matter how generous, because the bigger prize isn't the $7 million. The bigger prize is the message. The message that says, do not come for me, because if you do, I will take everything, in public, slowly, with my whole legal team standing behind me smiling, and I will let your own husband's words be the soundtrack. That message is worth more than $7 million. That message is worth a generation of peace. Now let me give you my honest, off-the-record, just between us read on the human side of this, because I do think it matters. I think Cardi tried, more than once, to actually walk away from this whole thing. There was that moment a while back where she said she was thinking of talking to her mother about it, thinking of cutting the debt, thinking of maybe just being done. I remember it. A lot of you remember it. She was tired. She was busy. She was building a life. And then something would happen. Tasha would post something, or one of Tasha's people would say something, or another lawsuit would land on Tasha's plate, and Cardi would get re-engaged. Because here's a thing about Cardi that I genuinely believe. She's a Libra. Y'all know Libras. When Libra is good, Libra wants peace. Libra wants love. Libra wants brunch. Libra wants nobody bothering her on a Sunday. But when Libra is pushed, when Libra feels disrespected, when Libra feels mocked, that scale tips. And the same energy that wanted brunch now wants blood. Not real blood. Legal blood. Receipts. Filings. Federal court blood. And Tasha, in my opinion, kept tipping that scale right when it was about to settle. There's also the personal layer that I think is fueling Cardi's energy lately. When you're happy, when your home is calm, when your kids are good, when your relationship is somewhere comfortable, you have a lot less energy to spend on enemies. But when your home life gets messy, when your ex is acting up, when your business gets disrespected, when somebody films your husband behaving badly, suddenly you have all this leftover fight energy and no peaceful place to put it. So you point it at the person who has been poking you the longest. And right now, that person is Tasha. And Cardi is using all of that energy to bury this case so deep that nobody can dig it back out. I'm not saying it's pretty. I'm saying it's human. And the law just so happens to give her the perfect machinery to do it. Okay, so what do we expect to actually happen next? Here's my best honest forecast based on what's in the filing and what my legal sources are whispering. Step 1. The federal court is almost certainly going to grant at least the permanent injunction. That's the easy ask, given the husband's own testimony. So expect very soon a court order that freezes their ability to move any more assets. Step 2. The constructive trust fight will be longer and uglier, but the early signs point toward the judge taking it seriously. Step 3. Depositions on depositions on depositions. The brother in Mali, if he exists, is going to be asked to appear. The accountants, the bankers, the assistants, the property managers, all of them are going to be subpoenaed. Step 4. The IRS gets a polite tap on the shoulder. Step 5. Settlement negotiations start happening in the background while the public hearings keep getting more dramatic. Step 6. By the end of all of this, Cardi has either collected most of her money, or she owns a sizable piece of the new company, or both. And Tasha, whatever she ends up with, will be operating under federal court supervision for the foreseeable future. The wildest part of all of this, to me, isn't even the money. It's the precedent. Because every gossip channel, every commentary creator, every YouTuber who has ever lost a defamation suit and tried to hide behind a shell company is watching this case extremely closely. Because if Cardi wins the constructive trust the way she's asking for it, the message to the entire industry is loud and clear. You can't out-incorporate your way out of a verdict. You can't out-Africa your way out of a verdict. You can't out-husband your way out of a verdict. You can't out-shell company your way out of a verdict. The court will find the money, and then the court will find the people who helped you hide the money, and then the court will quietly put a leash on your future income for the rest of your career. This case is going to be cited in law review articles. Mark my words. Future first-year law students are going to learn the phrase successor liability, using these exact filings as the case study. And Tasha K and her husband are going to be the example of what not to do, taught in classrooms, forever. That is the legacy. And here's the part that makes my head spin the most. None of this had to happen. None of it. If Tasha had just paid the original judgment, even slowly, even in installments, even with a hardship plan, this whole nightmare disappears. If the husband had quietly worked out a payment arrangement instead of cooking up Yellen Entertainment in a back office in May of 2023, none of this is filed. If they had picked up the phone and apologized, even off camera, even just between lawyers, this whole circus is canceled. But instead they chose the smartest guy in the room route, the corner-cutting route, the will outsmart Cardi B's legal team route. And that route, as we now know, leads directly into a federal courtroom in front of a judge who has already seen every move on the chessboard and just has to decide how big a fine to pour on top. And one last thought I want to leave you with about the precedent piece, because I cannot stop thinking about it. The reason cases like this matter so much is that they quietly rewrite the rules for everybody else who is watching from the sidelines. Every accountant whose client is currently hiding money in a relative's name is reading this filing right now and getting a little nervous. Every spouse who got pressured into signing transfer paperwork they didn't fully understand is reading this and finally feeling seen. Every plaintiff who thought a final judgment was just a piece of paper is reading this and realizing it can be turned into a weapon if you have the right team and the patience to wait for exactly the right moment to strike. Cardi didn't just file a lawsuit, you guys. She filed a blueprint. A blueprint that other people are going to study, copy, and improve on. Lawyers are going to print this filing out and pass it around their office like a strategy guide. And that, more than any single dollar amount, more than any single headline, is the part of this case that is going to outlive all of us once the dust settles and everyone has moved on to the next celebrity courtroom saga. You guys, I'm going to pause because I know I've been talking for a long time and I want to hear what y'all are thinking. Do you think Tasha settles, or do you think she fights it all the way to trial? Do you think the brother in Molly actually shows up? Do you think the IRS gets involved? Do you think Cardi takes the deal if Tasha offers up the new studio? Do you think there's a world where Tasha apologizes publicly and Cardi softens? Drop it in the comments. Tell me what you're hearing, because I know y'all be in those Reddit threads, and on those Discord servers, and on those private group chats catching things before I catch them. I want to know what your gut is saying. Because my gut is saying we are about 6 to 9 months away from one of the most insane public courtroom moments in modern gossip history. And I want us all in the front row when it happens. One more thing before I go. Watch how Tasha plays the next 2 weeks. Watch the tone. Watch the captions. Watch who she suddenly stops talking about. Watch who she suddenly starts being nice to. Watch if the live sessions get a little less spicy. Watch if her husband disappears from the camera for a while. Those are the small tells. Those are the body language tells of a defendant who just got handed a federal filing and is trying to remember every single thing they've ever said publicly. Because once you're on notice that everything you say can be evidence, you start moving very, very carefully. And that carefulness is going to be visible if you know what to look for. I'll be watching. You should be watching. Let me know in the comments what you're seeing. Hit the like if you got this far, hit subscribe if you're new, hit the bell so you don't miss the next update, because trust me, there will be a next update, and probably another one after that. I love y'all. Be safe out there. Don't ever transfer property to your spouse 1 month after a judge tells you not to transfer property to your spouse. And on that note, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.